when you follow one rental at a time, you know that you need to manage your network. You need to manage who you listen to. You need to really purposely make sure you're in a community of like-minded individuals. It's the only way that you know you can go in that direction. What I want to do here is kind of jump in the time machine and have a conversation with Adrian Hernandez about his circle of influence, how it has changed and evolved as his career has progressed. We're going to talk about people he's paid and people he listens to for free, because I don't think people really understand how our environment changes, how we purposely change as we grow, how we want to do something different and we let something go so we can add something. So, Adrian, I know this is an important thing. I know you think about it all the time. I've heard you speak on things like this. So, talk about how your personal network, your advisors, your mentor has evolved over the last several decades.
Yeah, it's interesting you bring up this topic today. I was actually having this conversation with the crew because we're doing book of the months, and a lot of the book of the months are taking me back to the original books that I was reading when I first got started, because a lot of them are just getting started. And then it's cool to see the evolution of mentors and books and podcasts that happens, because at every different phase of business, we're at a different phase mentally, spiritually, emotionally, and aged wise also, right? You know, when I was first getting in the business, I was 20 years old. I was listening to things much differently at 20 than I am at 33 today, right? However, I also think that there's a tempo to it too, right? And this is kind of cool. And we'll talk about mentors in a second, but I also think there's a tempo, because at the beginning, it's like all self-development, right? Like for me, when you were opening, I was bringing up my Audible. For those that saw my eyes go down, I was bringing up my Audible because, you know, how many books are in the Audible? How many am I? So 140, 174 books that are in my
Wow.
Audible, right? That I've read over time. And when I go all the way back to the beginning, because you go back to the beginning of the ones that you downloaded, and they're all around personal development, right? The magic of believing, power versus force, the power versus habit, the 10X rule, vortex, money master the game, right? So I say that because I believe that the tempo, like at the beginning, it's all self-development, right? You want it, it's all and then it starts to evolve. And then all of a sudden you start listening to, like for me, then that's when I hired Tony Robbins, like for business, like business mastery, how do I take the business to the next level? I've kind of conquered my personal self. Now, how do I get into that business realm?
I love that. Because again, I think when you really, for me, it's how do you take a spark? That's really what it usually begins for most of us. You have a
Right.
spark, an inspiration, a moment. And maybe that moment's fear-based. A lot of us get started because we just are tired of our life, right? We just
Right.
want something different. We're fed up. For some of us, it's because we saw somebody else. We heard a story from a family member, whatever it is. But there's some spark. And for me, that spark was, frankly, walking into a bookstore after being defeated. I was probably at one of
Mm,
my lowest points after losing 80% of what I had built in a couple of years.
mm.
And I found that damn purple book, Rich Dad Poor Dad. And, say what you will about Robert today, but that book changed my life.
Yeah.
It told me there was a new way to think. Nobody in my circle at 30 freaking years old with an MBA as an accountant is my first job. That freaking purple book told me you don't have to climb the corporate ladder. You can have businesses. You can there is another way. I was
Right.
so indoctrinated into this go to school, get a good job, climb the corporate ladder nonsense.
Right.
It was that freaking purple book that told me there was another way. And that sent me on an entirely different journey. That one moment. So it's
Yep.
crazy how it can happen.
And it's funny you say that. For me, it was personal power in high school. When I
Yeah.
read my dad had a personal power, Tony Robbins book. Somehow, some way I got a hold of it, right? And I remember going to, I'll never forget this. I'm like sick, and went to my buddy's house. My buddy's mom was like, "Aren't you sick?" And I'm like, "No, like I'm only sick if I think I'm sick," right? Because I was like so involved. I was so involved in that, like like the Tony, like only what you think is what happens, right?
No, no,
But
dude, you're sick.
right, exactly. She's like, okay, okay. We need to reevaluate who you're hanging out
Yeah.
with.
He's crazy. That's
Everyone
funny.
has a moment, right? Like, I'm just curious, you guys in the comments, what was your moment? Like, what was that moment that turned you on to like, that was that switch? I read something, I saw an audio, maybe you saw a video from Michael Zuber, right? And it sparked something. For me in real estate investing, it was Thatch. I saw Thatch
That's no end.
playing
Yeah.
because I was around all these agents, right? And then I saw Thatch playing at a much higher level, right? At a much higher level. So, you know, it's funny when we talk about like who were the mentors we hired. My first mentor was Shadi Bazzi, and it was all like self-belief, verbal skills, right? All
Mhm.
skills, self-belief. And then the second person was Thatch, right? And it was Thatch teaching me that journey of creating long-term wealth, right? Not being on that rat wheel, right? And then the biggest of all was Ty Leon Guerrero, who you guys all know very well, right? Ty was the biggest one that really took time to just pour into me. And what I love about Ty is it wasn't just business, it was huge self-development. Like, hey, I remember plenty of times other people would have taken it as him being super rude and mean. Like, I took it as like, he cares. Plenty
He
of times.
loves you. Yeah,
Yeah,
he
he
loves you.
cussed me out. And I'm like, I needed that. I needed that. And he's like, go get your shit together. And I'm like, he's right.
Yeah, I love Ty for that. It's really funny, right? Because when I think about, and again, I want people to be clear. My network today is not my network from 5 years ago, and my network 5 years ago wasn't the one 10 years. You're just in a different place. You've got to be purposeful. What I see with a lot of people, Adrian, and it's the people. Let's be clear. It's the people that are stuck.
Yeah.
The
Right.
reason you're stuck and you can't go anywhere is you haven't changed your personal network.
Yep.
That saying, tried and true, and I don't know who said it first, but whoever said it first is a genius. Show me your 5 friends and I'll show you your future.
Yep.
Change your circle. And in today's world, and again, thinking back to my journey, when I started this, God, 25 years ago, all I had was physical books and events. And let's be clear, my mindset 25 years ago, I wasn't going to an event. I wasn't going to pay somebody $100, which was probably the cost back then, to go listen to a presentation. That's just not where my mind was. It was a mistake. It was, whatever it was. But I would go buy a book, dude. I have hundreds. I have books in storage, and I read them all. And if I bought a book, I read it. And it's just you've got to fan the flames of the spark. You've got to keep it going. To your point, after that, after you've anchored on it, then it's about, okay, how do I make forward progress? And it's not how do I get to the end of the race? It's how can I take the next step? The
Right.
next step. I think too many people, again, the people that are stuck are doing one of two things. This is something I just said earlier today that I now believe. Getting wealthy is 100-mile race. It's not 100 meters. It's not even a marathon. It's 100 miles. Why do I say 100 miles? Because you can look at somebody running a marathon today, and there are some people doing it in like 2.5 hours. The average person is doing it in 6 or 7.
Okay.
I want you to think 100 miles. And the whole key to doing 100 miles is you just keep moving forward.
Yeah, I like that.
That's the key. Getting wealthy is 100 miles. You just keep moving forward. You can't worry about mile 98 when you're at mile 3. You worry about mile 4. So let's just think about the next step. And that's what it's all about, is getting in rooms with people, getting around people that are one step ahead. And in today's world, YouTube University, there are lots of ways to do it for free. It's crazy, right? I mean, the stuff that's available today that you probably spent thousands of dollars on to go get in rooms with these speakers like Tony Robbins. I can't imagine what that cost when you did it. And I certainly can't imagine what it costs today.
Right.
But Tony Robbins is on YouTube, guys. Right?
Yeah.
There's some great stuff there.
half a date with Destiny's on YouTube.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, Super, if I get this correctly, as I was talking to Ty about it, you never hired a coach, huh?
Never.
How impressive is that? You learned all through just reading books?
Reading books and trial and error. My superpower, and I only know this after I'm done because I've tried to help people, is I can outwork and work to me it's repetitive. Only a moron would think about looking at his buy box for 3 years in a row without extending it further, right? But that was a key to my success. Um, so yeah, and let's be clear, I should have hired a coach. I should have found someone. Why? Because they would have probably told me after the ninth month, you know what, dude, you can go a little bit bigger, right?
Mm,
You're not going to go to Austin, Texas, but you could stop looking at one freaking zip code, right? You
right.
could do this.
Right.
So I should have hired a coach. It would have changed my trajectory, but you know,
Well, we
it's
probably
wild to
wouldn't
think
be
about.
here talking now. So
I don't know. I mean, I would think I'd be bigger. So I don't know. I would hope I
yeah,
would still be doing something, but you never know.
yeah,
Yeah.
true that.
Yeah. It's pretty
It's funny. I
crazy.
remember back as an agent, right? I would never see myself. I would see anybody in what I'm wearing today and be like, they don't really like,
They're not hustling. They're not working.
yeah, they're not even doing anything, right? I remember wearing a tie and a suit every single day, right? And that being the circle. And I say this because that was the events, those were the rooms that I was around. That's what I was surrounded around. That's what success looked like to me because of the rooms that I were in, right? And then I got into it was actually business mastery where I met Chris Crone, and I got not even that. Let's just talk about being in the front in a couple of the front rows of business mastery and seeing people that make 20, 30, 40 million dollars a year, right?
Mm.
You then go from a room with all suit and ties and you show up to a suit and tie in this room. No. I also relate it back to the listing presentations. I'll never forget the first listing presentation I went on, guys, in Laguna Beach. My buddy Kevin Sturdivant, I walked up with a suit and a tie. He goes, "Take your tie off.
Mm.
Take your tie off." He goes, "This isn't that environment." And he goes, "Can you lose the tote?" And I'm like, and I like take the coat off. He's like, "No, no, no, put the coat back on."
Yeah.
All right, screw it. We're rolling with it. It's different, right?
Yeah.
It's different. It's just different phase of my career. So, and now I can wear a t-shirt.
There you go. Yeah. Again, I think it's really important for people to be purposeful about who they're feeding their mind. One of the things I love about you and in the presentations I've been a part of with you is you've got to feed it and protect it,
Most definitely.
right? You've got to keep growing. You've got to keep feeding it. The mind wants to grow, but you also have to protect it,
Mm-hmm.
right? And the crazy thing about the mind, at least in my experience, is for every 10 good things you put in it, if you put one bad, it's all gone. It's just a weird ratio,
Right.
right? The brain wants to protect you, right? Fight or flight. And if you've got to be purposeful, man. What do you think?
It's all intentional, right? I talk to the team about it every single day. So I'm like, you guys, we're all calling the same leads. We're all calling the same people. So are other companies. What's the difference? Yes, your
Yeah.
skill set, but how intentional are you? Or how intentional are you? Right? Are you actually intentional about what you want to do? Another thing that Thatch taught me, right? Thatch every day, he's like, "What's your intention?" Right now, tell him he's like, "That's a lousy intention. Give me a new intention." Right? He wouldn't say
Mm.
lousy, but he in his own words, right?
Yeah.
Right? He'd be like, give me a new intention. Give me a new one, right? Because the intention sets everything. But the intention comes right back down to what we're talking about. It goes back to the group. It goes down to the people. Who are the coaches, right? Who are the people that we're listening to? I think that's
Mm.
when and when you look at it, guys, it's your responsibility to continue to put yourself in those different rooms. Nobody's going to come
Yeah.
put you in them. It's your responsibility to go take the action, right? Michael Zuber has an event coming up in February. Have you bought your ticket? Right? Like that's a new opportunity. You've been in some rooms that they've gotten you to where you're at, but they're not going to take you to where you want to go.
Yeah. Yeah. Events in real life now, certainly something I started to pay for. We both went to Sean Cannell's. We got the VIP treatment. We've been to WealthCon. We paid to go to those. It's you've got to in real life is important. And one of the things I loved about our event last year was just how the room made it go. The people that were in the audience,
Right.
right? The go-givers. And really in my environment, they're all friends and family because they show up to the lives, they interact in the comments. And dude, if you want to make hay in the next year, you want to go one step further in real estate investing and you don't go to this event, opportunity missed, mistake.
100%. You guys have been to a lot of good events. Last February was incredible. You couldn't keep the crowd from not talking, and they weren't talking about nonsense. They
Yeah.
were talking about deals. They were talking about how to move forward. So again, right? It's your responsibility, and it all goes down to the people that you're surrounded yourself with. And
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah. I love it.
couldn't be a stronger
And,
believer about it.
and I'm just curious, over the last decade or so, would it be would it be absurd to say you spent $100,000 on getting in the right rooms?
Way more than that. I spent $100,000 getting one room.
Oh my gosh. All right.
Yeah, no, yeah, absolutely not. I mean, it's funny. We were calculating it. It's like upwards of $700,000-800,000 that we've spent on in personal development, mentorships, rooms. Right. We were paying Tony. My wife and I did the leadership mastery. We did 3 years. Yeah, we did it 3 years back to back. Right. So that was $64,000 a year for 3 years. Um, just for Tony, right? And then not including, we paid Carlos Reyes 40 grand. We paid Ryan Pineda 40 grand, right? I don't
Right.
mind, So
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
guys, it's yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, I'm not telling anybody you need to sign up for those big things, but I have a school community for 20 freaking dollars. 67 cents a day.
It, it
67 cents a day.
it's funny because I tell that story and a lot of people go, "Oh, I need to go," and I'm like, "No, what you need to go do is go turn on YouTube, right?"
Yeah.
And I tell them this: you got to go listen to one reno at a time. You need to go read Rich Dad Poor Dad, right? And you need to start taking some action. Those are the
Yeah.
words that I'm telling them, right?
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, guys, you don't need to go. I mean, eventually, yes, I recommend it most definitely. Spend the money, go to the event. Highly recommend that. But a lot of it, like Zuber is saying, it's right there. It's you
Yeah.
choosing to.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. Again, folks, the other thing I want to close with this is you got to protect the mind. I think there's a lot of ways with social media, including YouTube University, that you could go down doom loops. And you have to purposely block that. Yes, the world is hard. Yes, it's never easy. Yes, the world's unfair. Who cares? It's your job to move your life forward.
Yep.
I talk to 15 or 16 millionaires every week, and they all have horrible stories. Most of them have stories that start where you don't want. So if they did it, you can do it.
Yep.
What have you thought about blocking doom?
Find the people that are causing those dooms, that are influencing those, and find a way to spend less time with them.
Block them, dude. Cut them out.
Block them.
Yeah.
Gotta go.
Yeah. Until you have a proof of concept, until you have enough fortitude, like, I don't care what you say, I'm going forward. Those doomers, and some of them are friends, dude. Some of them are family.
Yep.
They will hold you back, pull you back, and they may be doing it because they love you and they want to protect you, but that's not helpful. If you want to change where you are, you got to change the people you're around.
Yep. And I talked about this at your event. I say this over and over again. You guys get a sheet of paper, draw a line down the middle. On the left-hand side, write down everybody that is positive, that is doing something for your life. On the right-hand side, write down everybody that's not, the doomers, the people that always have something to say. And as Zuber said, some are going to be family. And when I remember making my list, 90% of them were family members. And we have to find a way to separate ourselves. Do we give up mom and dad? No, I'm not, we can't give up mom and dad, but we can change the conversations we have with mom and dad. We can choose to have different conversations with the people that are always so negative that we can't get rid of because they're family or they're, I get that, right? But the friends, the associates, they got to go. Bye,
There we
Felicia.
go. At the end of the day, folks, I believe in you. You've got to take ownership. You've got to make a choice. You got to make a decision. Get in the right rooms, get around the right people. A lot of this stuff can be done for free. But if you want to get around 300 amazing folks, you can join my school community for 67 cents a day, or I'll see you in Vegas in February 15th and 16th. Adrian, where can people find you?
Guys, find me on Instagram at Adrian Hernandez. I know you spend more at Starbucks. Starbucks is like $9 a drink. Okay, you can afford the school. See y'all in there.
67 cents.
That's
It's
crazy.
crazy. Thank you, buddy.